Well, welcome to the third episode of Riskology, a podcast dedicated to the risk management and insurance industry. We have a special guest today, Brandon Robbins, who is the risk manager at the Ross Group. Brandon, if you don't mind just telling us a little bit about yourself as a way of introduction.
Yeah. So I'm a native Oklahoman. Grew up in Chelsea, Oklahoma, thriving metropolis.
Okay.
But I've been here at the Ross Group since 2005, coming in as the health, safety, and environmental manager, and then just kind of working my way up to now I'm the vice president of risk management and human resources. So I have health, safety, environmental, quality control, our insurance portfolio, and then HR.
Okay. So how did you get started in the safety world or risk management world?
You know, I've always wanted every job I've ever had ever had in mind that I wanted to do involved helping people. You know, whether it was a firefighter or a policeman or whatever you wanted when I was a little kid. And I really wanted to be a firefighter for a long time. And then just kind of being around construction and oil and gas, I just learned of the opportunities there that I could really help people. I'm a huge people person. My relationship skills, I feel like, are really my strength, and that was something I felt I could really benefit any company. And that's kind of when I really learned about the safety program at Northeastern State in Tahlequah.
Okay.
And that's how I ended up there and going through that.
Cool. If you don't mind telling us also a little bit about the Ross Group.
Yeah.
So we're in Tulsa, Oklahoma. What do you guys do? What do you specialize in anything?
Yeah, so the Ross Group, we started out as a general contractor specializing really in government construction. And probably 5 years ago, we really started to diversify what we do. So we don't only do military work now. We have an engineering group, our construction group, an industrial or oil and gas construction group, and then a development group that focuses on the historical lots, historical projects, bringing them on the construction side and allowing us to benefit communities in that way.
Okay. I've noticed that you all really have a commitment to the Tulsa community. Is that something that's intentional, and do you guys strive to develop this area as a more of a focus for your company, or is it really across the country that you all do projects?
So community involvement and benefiting communities has always been paramount at the Ross Group, whether it was doing the military facilities to benefit the people to protect our country, to doing different Native American projects, taking water from one source back to the land, the reservation, and then now actually being able to play in our own backyard and really see downtown transform and be a part of that process. From the 10 years ago, that's when the BOK Center was rebuilt. This part of downtown, it was still kind of revitalized, a lot of empty lots, a lot of empty buildings. And we've really helped bring the progression back to downtown through not only our corporate headquarters, which is the former International Harvester headquarters, but the old Tulsa Petroleum Club, which is going to be a hotel, event space, and restaurant now. We have a spot over by Tulsa Driller Stadium that Vast National Bank, that's going to be their corporate headquarters, that will also have Casillas Petroleum. In the Raw is going to go in there, and a couple other companies. And right by there, we did a new Holiday Inn Express. So we've just seen a lot within 3 blocks of our corporate office really help transform downtown and make it more welcoming to people.
Brandon, if you don't mind just telling me a little bit about what your day-to-day operations look like as it relates to the Ross Group.
So day to day, it's meetings, man.
Really?
In and out in a lot of meetings, which I feel very involved with kind of where we're going as a company. Strategic meetings with our executive team. We have daily meetings with my HR and my risks teams. It's something we've recently just started to try and improve communication. Spending some time with our in-house counsel, seeing where we're going as far as contracts and which ones have gone out the door, and really finding out the needs of our construction and then our design build groups, what they're needing in the field as far as personnel, and trying to navigate those waters. And then, on the risk side for our engineering group, I spend a lot of time in ISNet world, PEC, trying to make sure that we're all clear and good to go on that end. And then there's just a lot of opportunities on our development side. It's always interesting trying to catch up with that group of our company, as what property we're acquiring today that's going to better Tulsa or better Oklahoma City or whatever community we're looking at going in. Again, because kind of like I talked about before, there's just so much of what we do is based on bettering communities and bettering the people in those communities, whether it's bringing in tourism or providing more jobs.
Okay. So it seems like there's really 5 major groups within the Ross group, different sections and how they all work together. Could you dive a little bit deeper into, maybe each of those and, like, for example, design build? What is that exactly and how does that work?
Yeah, so our design build group, they are industrial construction. They're heavy construction. They do a lot of the oil and gas work, some pipeline, a lot of stuff in engineering and manufacturing. That is really their focus.
Okay.
Our construction group, that's where the military construction, our hotels, a lot of our renovations for other companies and clients, hospitality, healthcare, that all the facility work is construction. Then we have our engineering group. Again, it's a pretty heavy oil and gas. They are branching out into other areas and attempting to get other markets, like produced water, biogas, things like that. And then we have our development side, which really goes out, and they've become one of the biggest clients for the construction side as they go out, acquire the land, and make the wheeling and dealing and getting the properties for the clients, and then bring the Ross Group in to build the projects themselves. But it's everything from office, mixed use, hospitality, industrial construction. Again, all things that kind of tie back to bettering the community and bettering the area around them.
Okay. From a competition standpoint, do you guys have much competition? I mean, it seems like the Ross Group is a pretty unique company from multiple factors. I mean, what does that landscape look like?
Yeah, there's always competition in the different arenas. As far as for what we can bring to the table as a sole company with the different branches, I'm not sure. I feel like we don't have any competition, right. But obviously we do when you break us out into our parts. That's where the competition, and it becomes we have to navigate those waters a little better.
Right. It just seems like an efficient way to have all these groups in one organization to be able to talk efficiently, saying, hey, I'm working on this project. Can you help me over here?
Yeah, and that's really the thing, and I think that's kind of the trick that we're really trying to do right now as far as our business development is approach potential clients and other people about, hey, we have this on the development side. If you need some creative financing to be able to secure this, and we have an engineering group that can help you get ready to get the project off the ground. And then we have 2 construction groups that one of them should be able to help you build the facility or the office or the pipeline or tank battery or whatever. So right. we have a lot of different ways that we could really take the project from cradle to grave. And I think a lot of other companies don't have that in-house capability because, like you said, there's so much benefit from just being able to talk across the office to somebody.
Absolutely. Yeah. So from an HR perspective, that you're coming from that area, not only that area but risk as well. How do you go in and recruit for these different areas? Is that difficult? Because you have to have almost an HR recruiting hat from different perspectives. Is that your role, or how does that work?
Yeah. So it's one of those things. It's really developing the strategy. That's more my role. Is really helping the strategy along with the execs from the different groups as to where we want to go to find people, what colleges. What people have we met that we want to put on our bench that we can call at a later time. So we have several resumes and several names and contact information for people we want to come to work for us when the right opportunity comes up. But you're absolutely right. There's a lot of difference between recruiting an engineer and recruiting a superintendent for one of our construction projects. So it's really just trying to make sure that we get off the main point that the Ross Group's a great place to work, and we want you to be a part of our family. Here's how we're going to help you succeed. And we've done a lot of things recently to really help employee development and get the employee to where they ultimately want to be, whether that's in the field, in the office. We've really broke down an employee development plan for each person by position in the company.
Wow.
So we make sure, and we've had the meetings with each person and their manager to determine, hey, do you want to stay in the field for the rest of your career, or at some point do you want to come into the office? And honestly, a lot of these conversations, we were kind of surprised that I had no idea I had a couple superintendents that wanted to potentially become project managers someday and get out of the field. So now we have that documented, and we can kind of set them on a path to help get them there. So I think that's one of the bigger things. We're really trying to figure out the right fit for each group is figuring out where people want to go and how we can help get them there.
Right. Which avenue that?
Yeah. Which
most efficient route. Yeah. That's great. Does the Ross Group have any upcoming projects that we can talk about that you're excited about as well?
So we're we just got contracts. We're going to start 4 new jobs in New Mexico.
Wow.
2 at Cannon Air Force Base in Clovis, New Mexico, and then 2 in Albuquerque. All government projects. One for the Bureau of Indian Affairs, one for the GSA, and then we'll have 2 Corps of Engineers projects. One being a fitness center, and the other being another facility for flight simulator. So,
Okay.
pretty excited about those. It's kind of a new area for us to go into, so that's always fun to learn new areas. And
Now, the
find
type of
people.
project is a new area or New Mexico?
New Mexico is a new area. We've
Okay.
done a project in New Mexico before, but it was more south, not around the Albuquerque area. So pretty excited about. We always like when we can go into new markets and new areas, and in that we find new people. People that have worked on those bases and in those areas for extended amount of time and have relationships, know the subcontractors. So that really helps out in the long run.
Yeah. And before we move on to the next topic, can we touch on about your guys' specialty within the government contracting space? It seems like, starting out, or when the Ross Group started out, that was really a specialty. Is that a unique in the industry as far as a specialty goes? Or?
It's challenging to do government work if you haven't done it before, because especially through the Corps of Engineers, they look a lot at past performance. So they want you to submit on similar type jobs within that entity, or just similar size and scope. So yeah, it is a niche in a way. Is that when the big construction crisis hit several years ago, you didn't see a whole lot of people jumping into the government construction world successfully, just because there's a lot of red tape, there's a lot of paperwork, there are a lot of things you have to know and know how to navigate those waters to be successful. So I think that's one reason why that will always be part of our strategic focus on business development, is going after the government work, because we've traditionally been very good at it.
Yeah. How does risk management affect the company culture, would you say?
So that's kind of the cool thing about the Ross Group. Everybody understands how safety, how risk plays a part in our everyday lives here. I wouldn't say we're risk adverse. We really look at situations and fully understand what the risk is before jumping with both feet into a situation or into a project. So we analyze it financially. Is it something that's going to benefit the community? Is it something that we're going to be able to do and do well? Those are all things we really look at when we're really trying to figure out what projects and things to do.
Okay. How does a safety culture affect an organization?
When people are happy and when their employee morale is high, your quality control is going to be great. People are going to be more productive, and people are just going to be safer. When people see their coworkers or friends get hurt or miss time due to an injury, it affects the overall workplace. And I think that's something that we fully understand here, is that by creating a safe work environment for ourselves, our subcontractors or trade partners, and our clients, it's benefiting everybody in the long run.
Are there any tips that you can give someone or organization that is in charge of safety within their company that could increase the safety culture within that organization?
Yeah, so I think at first you have to have management buy-in. If from the top down, that's how it's got to be pushed. And if executive management is bought into a safety program and is committed to it and leads by example, that's really when you're going to see a lot of change. So that you have to get that going first, and then it's the employee buy-in. It doesn't do a whole lot of good develop programs, develop training on your own on an island. So getting employee input and what they want, how it's going to benefit their jobs, and getting that employee buy-in up front,
right,
goes a long way in getting that frontline leadership to lead by example on your job sites and in your workplace.
Absolutely, I agree. Coming in, starting at the Ross Group, it seemed like you were really on the risk management side starting out, and recently you started handling the HR from the HR perspective. And with some of the clients that I've worked with in the past in organizations, oftentimes those two things are siloed within the organization, and there's not much communication from the risk to the HR side. So you being in a unique position handling both, is there an overlap or an intersect between those two sides? And should people be communicating more from that perspective?
I think it always depends on how your company's set up, but I definitely think there's a benefit between having your risk management side and the HR side talk. There are just so many benefits to that, whether it's the cross-training of personnel. A lot of times the HR side is probably going to be a little more hands-on with the work comp side of things. And the risk management may not have the education or the experience to do that. So if you pair those two together and there's that communication and working together to handle those claims, it benefits everybody in the long run. And then, on the HR side, I think it helps by being involved with the risk assessment side almost. It helps you have a better idea of the big picture of things, of the entire company. And you're not just focused on benefits. You're not just focused on recruiting, because there is a risk side to recruiting, the human capital side of things.
Absolutely.
And there's so many tools out there now that you can use to help mitigate that risk, whether it's the predictive index, which is the behavior survey, Myers-Briggs. There's a lot of things out there that you can utilize as a tool to help navigate the hiring process to make sure you're getting the right fit for your company, your culture, and even the position. So I think nowadays a lot more HR personnel are a little more in tune with the risk associated with bad hires.
Okay. No, that's great. And you mentioned different tools from an HR perspective, the personality tests and that sort of thing. How do you stay up to date on new emerging risks? And are there any tools that you're using to help do so?
Here Ross Group, we really push continuing education, whether it's webinars, seminars, going back and getting a different degree or graduate certificate. It's just really being involved in different organizations and having the resources available to you to know these things. I'm involved in the American Society of Safety Professionals. I go to a lot of the training that our insurance broker Lockton puts on. They put on a lot of good boot camps and workers' comp, case manager type activities. And then there are several just really good work comp day seminars that happen in Oklahoma City and in Tulsa that are real good to learn about all the medical marijuana stuff that's coming up, changes in work comp laws, the different procedural advances that doctors are doing now, whether it's rotator cuff or knee or what have you. So just going to those types of activities not only helps you build your network if you put yourself out there, but you're just learning through osmosis. I mean, you're getting some really good information.
Yeah, absolutely. That's one thing I was going to say is, you're not only learning the information when you're going to these conferences and events and the continuing education, but you're also building your network. So being, if you run into an issue, you can say, oh, I know this guy or lady that handles this type of situation.
And I think that's something that people really miss out on. They go to a conference and then they don't get themselves out of their comfort zone to go meet people that could potentially be a resource to them. They go to the dinner and then go back up to their room to go to work. And the coursework or the breakout sessions you go to while you're at the conferences are important. But for me, meeting the people has always been the biggest bang for my buck going to conferences. I feel like knowing a really good HR professional, a great work comp person, a good lawyer, a good doctor, a good case manager, all these different areas. You can't be an expert in everything, so having those experts in your pocket that you can call is huge.
Absolutely. Just assessing where you're at and building a team of experts around you to help handle those
And it's
situations.
just good to be able to have somebody to bounce an idea off. Hey, this is my gut. You've been doing this a little bit longer than me. What do you think? And lay out the scenario as much as you can to an external person. So,
speaking of the external team around you of experts, as you navigate the risk world, how important is the insurance broker relationship to you and the Ross Group?
Oh, it's huge. Broker and carrier. They're just such great resources, and I think it's very important to have that person you can call when something's not going the way you feel it should, or to be able to call and get, hey, I'm having trouble with this claims agent. I need some resolution. Can you give me an answer by the end of the day? And having that go-to person on both sides to kind of push your issues to get the answer you ultimately need to help your personnel.
Right, absolutely.
But and I think it's really important to have it on both sides, because people change jobs. So if you put all your eggs in one basket on the broker side, and then your main contact with the broker leaves, you're kind of hung out to dry with your carrier. So it's really important to navigate those relationships and make them both really strong.
That's a good point. Yeah.
And a lot of carriers aren't used to people trying to be proactive. My stance is, I want you to come in and tell me how I can improve. Our programs are not perfect. I'm not perfect. I'm not the smartest guy out there. I know there are people that do things better. What have you seen and what can you tell me? Because I want to make the Ross Group the best it could be. And I think, having a conversation with my carrier the other day, they're just not used to that sometimes. They don't want to see you unless there's an issue, and that's how the approach for a lot of companies are, is that, hey, when I need you, I'll call you, but don't bother me. And I don't see the benefit there.
Right. I agree. And I think, a lot of times when a carrier is wanting to partner with an organization, they're really wanting to have that input and being able to build that relationship with the client as well. So
yeah.
How can the industry better promote itself to the younger generation?
I think for one thing, we got to make sure it's not coming off as boring.
Yeah.
I think that's a big thing I hear all the time is, a lot of people want to go oil and gas because they feel it's exciting.
Right.
That's the industry. They don't think about construction or insurance or manufacturing. They want to go, not only where the money is, but that's a huge attraction to them because it's talked about a lot. You see in the news a lot. Oklahoma itself is based a lot on oil and energy. So I really just think it's important for us as professionals to put ourselves out there to the younger generation, whether it's through young professional organizations, whether through university programs, even now going into high schools and really doing these new alumni fairs. I've seen a lot of high schools lately do to promote our industry and how important risk management is. And it's not boring. A lot of these rules are there for a reason. Somebody was killed, so a lot of the regulations on the safety side are written in blood, essentially, and it's really important for people to know the importance of that, because I think they just see, oh, that's just a really boring safety deal. Oh, you're going to tell me not to touch the hot stove.
Right.
Well, it's a lot bigger that we are a big part of this machine that makes the money. I mean, if you have people getting hurt all the time and claims go up, premiums go up, you're not doing good quality work. I mean, everything, it all goes back to morale. So it's just a big circle, and we're a big part of that.
Yeah, absolutely. So with regard to risk management, what would you say the greatest lesson you have learned over the years when managing risk?
Go with your gut. I think that to me has been my biggest lesson. I think I second guessed myself a lot early in my career because I didn't have the confidence, which is strange for me to say because I'm a pretty confident person. But when push came to shove, I might have second guessed the way I felt like we should do, and it might not have been the best way. It might have worked out, but maybe it would have been better for everyone if I would have just gone with my gut. So I think you have to trust yourselves at times and not get, because it's easy to get overwhelmed in this industry. A lot of things are really sensitive nature, for one, especially when you're dealing with injuries, but they can be overwhelming priority-wise. I mean, somebody gets hurt, you got to deal with it now. When an accident happens, you got to deal with it now. How do you handle those types of situations? And again, it's really easy to get overwhelmed and kind of push yourself to a decision that you wouldn't have made under normal circumstances. So that's probably the biggest one that I've learned, is just being confident. And, you may come in, especially coming in young. I started in the industry at 23,
right,
with a lot of seasoned guys and gals around me. And I probably let that intimidate me a little bit, and let decisions be influenced. So
that's a great point. When starting out, you said early on that you had a lot of seasoned people around you. How important was that starting out in your career, and would you recommend to others to try to find and attach to a mentor as they get up and coming in the industry?
Absolutely. And I think the thing to remember with a mentor is it doesn't have to be somebody in your profession. Probably the person I've learned the most from is our current CEO, Dave Thomas, and he's not a safety professional. He's not a risk professional. He taught me how to be a good manager. And so much of what we do as risk managers, it's people. That's what a friend of mine, Bill Young, always says, safety is a people business. And it is. You have to deal with people, and being able to navigate relationships and being able to read people in certain situations and deal with personalities. I mean, that's all part of, we have to stay calm a lot of times depending on the issues. But going back to the mentor thing, it's extremely important to find somebody to latch onto that is willing to impart wisdom to you, talk about their mistakes, because so often we want to just talk about our success stories,
right,
which are great. You learn a lot from them, but you learn a lot more from mistakes. You learn a lot more from getting knocked down and getting back up. So finding that person that really fits your personality and is going to help drive you in the way that you want to go is invaluable. And I push mentoring all the time, inside the company and outside when I'm talking to organizations. And I think people tend to forget about mentors is you're not always going to agree. You're not always going to like what
Right.
that person has to say, and that's part of it.
Yeah.
It's a two-way street. They're learning from you just like you're learning from them, but you have to check your emotions at the door and realize you're there for the betterment of both of you in most cases, and remember that.
Absolutely. And as you progress through your career, you're going to have this mentor in this area and another mentor over here, and you're going to take the best and apply it to your style and how you do
It always
things.
amazes me when you ask, like, so how many of you have had a mentor? And, not everybody in the room raises their hand. I was like, man, it could be your dad. It could be your grandpa. It could have been your baseball coach. In some way, you've had a mentor in some area. Now you just need to find that in a professional way that is going to give you what you need. Like for me, I don't need praise. I'm not a guy that likes praise. It kind of makes my skin crawl, honestly. I need the person that's really going to push me and be that coach. The coach that when he stops yelling at you, that's when you have to worry. That was always the approach that worked really well for me. And not every mentor I've had, those relationships were successful because they weren't all like that. Some of them were hands-on and wanted to teach me by walking through the steps and, hey, you're doing a great job. And that just really didn't push me the way that kind of leaving me to my own and then getting on me when I'm not meeting your expectations.
Right.
So.
Okay. That's great. Well, I really appreciate your time today, Brandon. I think this was insightful, and it's going to help out, especially a lot of people up and coming into the industry.
I appreciate the opportunity, man. Thanks.
All right. Thanks, Brandon.